take your temperature and you can tell me about your symptoms when you best.
There was nothing normal about the sick.
Come on.
And life would never be normal again.
Anticipating numbers not seen since the Black Plague. The H5G9 strain is now officially the deadliest virus in our lifetime.
Excuse me, are you a doctor?
Yeah.
I think I need your help.
No one knew which came first, the hybrids or the virus.
This video is brought to you by Keeps. 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time that they're 35, and the best way to prevent hair loss is to do something about it while you still have hair left. So, if you're noticing hair loss, find out why Keeps has more 5-star ratings than any of its competitors, and why hundreds of thousands of men trust Keeps for their hair loss prevention medication. With Keeps, a licensed doctor will review your information online and recommend the right hair loss treatment plan for you. Then, your treatment is shipped directly to your door every 3 months. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/filmcomics or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/filmcomics. Based on the graphic novel of the same name, Sweet Tooth is an amazing new show on Netflix depicting a destructive global pandemic that causes the collapse of human society and the rise of a new human-animal hybrid species. All of this is caused by the H5G9 virus, a fictional pathogen unleashed when a microbe is unearthed from the ice shelves of Alaska. Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and as requested, today we're going to explore the H5G9 virus outbreak, its effects on the human body, some possible treatments, and how it led to the dystopian world seen in Sweet Tooth. Before diving into the specifics of the virus, we need to look at the 2 events that transpired when the H5G9 virus outbreak kicked off: the spread of the virus and the birth of the hybrids, human children with animal characteristics. The ending of the first season reveals that these 2 events are linked with each other, with Birdie explaining that the virus and the hybrids were 2 sides of the same coin. The pathogen was essentially discovered by Birdie and her Fort Smith research team in Alaska, where they were drilling for microbial samples in the ice. After transporting the microbes to their main laboratories, they began conducting experiments that led to the creation of the very first hybrid, the Dear Boy protagonist, Gus. When the government caught wind of what was going on, the laboratory was raided by the military, prompting Birdie to place Gus in the care of Pubba, who heroically dedicates the rest of his life to keeping him safe. Right before this happens, Pubba and Birdie are getting acquainted in a bar, and we see a news broadcast explaining how the flu season had started earlier than usual in the Midwest. Another one of the main characters in the series, Dr. Singh, also makes the same mistake of confusing H5G9 for the flu, leading to the acceleration in cases.
I'm going to take your temperature and you can tell me about your symptoms when you best.
As Singh started realizing that his diagnosis was wrong and the significance of what was happening around him, the ensuing chaos propelled society towards destruction. Often referred to as the sick, the blame for this outbreak was tossed at the hybrids, with terrified masses referring to them as pests and calling for their extermination. This dehumanization of the hybrids led to a decade of them being hunted down by an organized militia known as the Last Men that is seemingly taking control of the US, enforcing the rules and ideology of its ruthless leader, General Douglas Abbott. As seen through the story of Dr. Singh and his wife Rani, post-collapse neighborhoods are transformed into insular communities that ruthlessly burnt anyone that showed symptoms within their own home. Hybrids captured by the Last Men are also either killed outright or vivisected to find a cure, one which the military dictator wishes to use to control what's left of civilization with an iron grip.
Find me a cure with enough doses, so I can decide who lives and who doesn't.
While every life claimed by either H5G9 or the chaotic world that unleashed has been a tragic one, none hit us as hard as Pubba, who loses his battle with the virus, leaving Gus to fend for himself and begin his adventure. Pubba teaches Gus to be fearful of humans and explains that the world outside their personal sanctuary was scorched by endless fires, implying that the world was all but destroyed. And while Gus discovers this was a lie, this was likely a warning referring to the Inquisitional-style burnings being carried out in most communities. The hybrids that we see in the show come in a variety of forms, depending on the animal they're related to. They're generally seen as one collective species, with some of them appearing to demonstrate unique abilities. Gus, for example, has heightened senses, enhanced agility, and night vision.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Good night, boys.
Hi, boys.
Wendell, on the other hand, demonstrates a keener sense of smell, a trait commonly seen in pigs, while Bobby is, well, he's a groundhog.
Bobby, you came back.
What do you have there, Bobby? Where did you find this?
He found it on the fence.
Right out of the womb, the children are born with hybrid animal features. Gus, for example, was born with deer-like ears and small stubs that eventually grow to become antlers. Monkey hybrids have fur and extremely long arms. Bird-based hybrids grow feathers and beak-like noses. And then there's the curious case of Bobby, an unnaturally short groundhog-human hybrid that looks to be more animal than human. What's also interesting is that they're generally portrayed as being mute, with Gus, Wendy, and Bobby being the only ones to speak. This may, however, have nothing to do with the fact that they're hybrids, and may simply be the result of society shunning them. While Season 1 of Sweet Tooth gives us a broad timeline of the outbreak, its exact origins are still shrouded in mystery. To better understand where it originated, we must rely on two ports of call, what we've seen in the series so far, and what we know from the comics. When Gus arrives at Birdie's home and discovers the truth about how he was made, we see an image of an old ship that has crashed onto an icy landscape. The same image can also be seen during the final scene when Birdie answers a communicator in the Alaskan wilderness. My theory is that Birdie knew the existence of this ship and that it carried a unique microbe. With the infected crew crashing into the Alaskan ice shelf, the microbe was frozen for centuries in a dormant state until she and her team found it, used it to create hybrids, and unleashed it to the world. This, however, could all be turned on its head if the show remains faithful to the Sweet Tooth comics, our second port of call. In the comics, both the hybrids and the virus were the work of the Inuit deer god of the hunt, known as Teketsertok. After disturbing his tomb, a team of missionaries were all but wiped out by a mysterious disease, leaving a single survivor called Louis. Louis' brother-in-law then searches for him for years and discovers he's still alive and integrated with the Inuit tribe. Louis explains that he fell in love with an Inuit woman he married, and they had a son that was born a deer hybrid like Gus, but the missionaries began to die from an unknown sickness after the child's birth. Angered by this story, the brother then callously slaughtered the Inuit tribe with his team and sealed the dear child in Teketsertok's tomb, before he and Louis eventually died of the same sickness. A century later, the Fort Smith team unseals the tomb, consequently unleashing the disease. It's important to note that the comics take a pure fantasy direction, while the show implies that the virus is biological. Having said that, it's possible that the show may be slowly following in these same footsteps, as we've had a number of hints and visual clues alluding to this, especially in Season 1's penultimate episode. While returning from the bar, Papa points to the night sky and shows Birdie the Orion constellation, which is based on the Greek demigod of the hunt. He also explains that in Eastern texts, the constellation is called Mriga, meaning deer. H5G9 is a physically transmittable, bloodborne, waterborne, and potentially airborne virus that slowly destroys a person's immune system. Essentially a zoonotic life form, a disease-causing pathogenic microbe which can be passed on to human beings. Once entering the bloodstream, H5G9 permeates throughout the body and makes its way to the brain of infected hosts, causing severe inflammation followed by death. Much like the common cold, it appears to have an incubation period of between 1 to 3 days, and the virus is so transmissible that it spreads across the entire country within days. A key early symptom of the virus is uncontrollable twitching, a visual indicator that a person is infected.
Doc,
It's not what it looks like.
this is an issue for security, Bob.
Just like the MEV1 virus I covered a few years ago, H5G9 appears to be pleomorphic and ovid in shape, with glycoproteins on the outer surface. Pleomorphism essentially increases a virus's ability to evade the host's immune system, the number of reservoir organisms, and the mechanisms of transmission, which is what makes H5G9 so resilient and lethal. The virus then infects the brain and lung cells, as they have the appropriate receptors for the glycoproteins on the capsid's surface, like a key and lock mechanism. Once it reaches this location, it begins to cause inflammation of the brain and respiratory systems, quickly stopping the body's ability to fight it. As of the end of Season 1 of Sweet Tooth, there is no immediate cure for the sick, but we know that the hybrids are immune to the disease and that a treatment could be synthesized using their bodies. Before taking over Dr. Bell's research, Singh receives regular doses of the treatment she'd been developing, horrifically composed from the bone marrow and pineal glands of hybrids. This temporarily places the virus in a dormant state and eliminates all symptoms of Rani's infection, returning his wife to near full health. But once the treatment ceases, the symptoms return. There are also a few other people in the show that appear to be unaffected by the virus, specifically Dr. Singh, Bear, and Big Man, who've all had contact with the infected, yet never showed any symptoms. It's likely that they have a natural immunity, something that will hopefully be explored in Season 2, but I also think that this could play into the fantasy elements from the comics, with the virus not affecting some people for supernatural reasons. Either way, I'm eagerly anticipating the next installment into the series, and would love to hear what you guys think about Sweet Tooth in the comments below. That's all for today, folks. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to stay up to date on all my content. Come join me at Patreon or Twitch for some extra videos, and if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.